4, 5, 6. Yes, we have a quorum. Okay.
Great. Okay. Shall we bring the meeting to order then?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Okay. And I guess we have our agenda to approve. I'm going to bring up my information again. Apologies, but I'm a little bit behind. But Steph, if you want to go ahead and look at that. Okay, do we have someone to move to approve the agenda?
Did anybody ask about an update on where we're at with the economic development plan?
I think
Yeah.
under subcommittees, Allison.
Okay, was that, I missed that under the subcommittee, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, and we don't need a second, do we, Steph?
Sure.
Take it by consensus.
Second? Okay, I'll
King of the
second.
game.
Yep. And then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, adopt the agenda. Minutes of our October 26th meeting some time ago, so it's probably not fresh in your mind. And do we have anyone who commented on those? Or Steph, did you receive any comments back in October?
Yeah.
I'll move adoption.
Okay. And I'll second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, none opposed. Okay, I don't think we have public comments this morning. And Daniel's with us, so can we move on to our council referral?
Yeah, I think Jennifer's going to start that one.
Oh, Jennifer? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, hello, sorry, I just did the share screen before I unmuted myself, then the mute button moved. Okay, so I'm showing right now in the screen share the letter that was, I believe, sent out to all of you that just kind of summarizes where we are with this referral. So this is for the rezoning application RZ01-2020, which is for the Happy Isle Cannabis business. They're the original applicant. And this commission has seen this referral before. So this is the second referral that's after the council's first reading. It's now been sent back to the CEDC for further comment. Sometime after the council's first reading and this meeting, the original applicant submitted a new letter requesting that we consider a cannabis policy. So this document here is including the letter here that I'm showing, includes the staff response to this request for a policy with our own suggestions for what a cannabis policy might look like. So what we're asking for today is CEDC's comments on the rezoning application itself. Once more, the new bylaw, which is suggesting the removal of the prohibition for retail cannabis sales, and the comments on this policy as we have outlined it here, and then any alternate approaches. So I can go through it with a bit more detail, but that's kind of the summary. So essentially, the original application was to continue the existing use, which is currently under a temporary use permit. on location in the village square there where the Happy Isle Cannabis store is. And since then, based on comments from both the CEDC and the other committee.
Advisory planning.
Yes, APC, thank you. Advisory Planning Commission. We're both in agreement about, rather than rezoning that particular lot, to remove the prohibition of cannabis sales such that it would be permitted any place where retail is permitted, and each individual location would then require the same licensure that's already required by the province, and also includes a municipal notification and approval system. So that would then be the mechanism for controlling cannabis, retail cannabis sales on the island, rather than also adding an island-wide prohibition. So that's what the bylaw 530, which was also sent to you in your packet, but I can open it up if you like. That's what that one does, just removes that prohibition. So then in regards to a cannabis policy, the applicant did suggest what a cannabis policy might look like, and we have now taken that into account and produced as staff our own suggestions of what that cannabis policy might look like. We haven't had the chance to put together an actual policy because we just received the letter a couple of days ago. But
Can you make your screen a little bigger?
I can make the document bigger.
That's what I meant, yeah. So that we.
Is this helpful?
I don't know how you get full screen on the page, just so the type would be a little easier to see what you were talking about for the policy.
Is that better?
That's better. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how what I do changes on your screen exactly. Maybe that's better. Okay, so the cannabis policy that we're suggesting, I'm now here in the text basically, would include the following items. So it would have a vision statement for what the idea of the cannabis policy is, which is basically to balance economic development with the desire to maintain certain neighborhood character and have community support. The second part would be outlining the notification process. So we're required to notify people by law, but there's different options as to how that notification can occur. And this would stipulate which option we would be following. And then the third would be a list of considerations that council could take into account, but not in so much detail, just kind of describing those elements that would be considered. So that would include things like proximity to sensitive areas, the support as expressed by the neighborhood or lack thereof, the visibility of the retail unit and its impact on neighborhood character, and then also accounting for its relationship or distance to other retail cannabis stores. And so those would be listed, but not with numbers. So it wouldn't be stipulating a certain distance or anything like that. It would just be a list of things for council to consider. So that's kind of the draft cannabis policy that we're considering.
Jennifer, did you want to, it sounds like Morgan's got a question. Are you taking questions during your presentation?
Sure, I can. I apologize that I can't really see.
I can help you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I see Maureen.
Maureen, do you have something?
Up. Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the letter that came from the pub, or I guess it's DK Harris, whoever it's from Glenn and from David. There were a number of items. Can you put the policy back up again?
Oh, sorry, I was just.
Well, actually, this would be okay as well. There are a number of items that they've listed in their letter that aren't reflected in the draft policy bullet points. So, for example, the maximum number of retail licenses that are permitted. Could you explain why you've excluded some of those points, Jennifer?
So based on, we kind of got together as staff and discussed the items that were in this letter. And then from that, we selected those items that we would recommend in a policy. So, sorry, the number of cannabis retail licenses was not one of the items that we anticipated putting into the policy.
Why not?
essentially, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause to me, that's going to be a concern to the community, I would think. And I have the other municipalities limited numbers of cannabis.
So I haven't had the chance to look at the comparator communities yet because this was received so soon. But basically, we did talk about the population on the island and about how many stores the island would economically support, particularly based on feedback from the applicants. And it seems that generally speaking, there wouldn't be enough, it's not standard for there to be more than one cannabis store per the amount of population that we have on the island.
Okay, and I'm remembering a number of years back where we were talking about thinking about that and trying to limit the competition so the business would be viable. And that was when the Chevron station closed at the corner and somebody else wanted to open up a second one after the little one had opened up at Artisan Square. And I'm thinking there's something about we can't limit competition. I mean, we got into quite a bit of a discussion about the legalities of even being able to do that. So that could be another thing. I'd have to go back and look at what we were talking about then, but I don't think the lawyer was too comfortable with us trying to limit competition.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'd have to look into it. I'm not quite sure I don't know if Daniel has comments on that, but.
I also recall a comment made, and I can't see it in this letter. Did he send two different letters maybe? About, oh, there we go. It's number 4, the boundaries on Truck Road.
So part of this is coming from conversations that we had with them when they were considering various locations for the original spot where it is now. So it's a little bit misleading, this phrase here that says no store to be located on Truck Road. Basically, my understanding is that they had suggested a couple of different locations when they were first looking at putting in the temporary use permit, and staff had suggested the preferred location to be by the Village Baker, but there was no prohibition.
Jennifer, just with that,
time, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know the letter says that, and I don't recall ever saying, at a staff level that it not be. I know when they were initially looking, they were looking at a location under the current pub, but never applied, and then came with the location Village Baker, and that's what they applied for, and staff supported that location.
There might have been some comments about that being too close to the pub.
I mean, I think there were comments from, like maybe we got letters where people commented to the applicant, but that was never like a staff or council statement, I guess, that we weren't supporting a location on Trunk Road.
But just in terms of the points that you haven't accepted from this letter, you haven't accepted the first one in terms of maximum number of licenses, and you haven't accepted the fourth one, the specific location boundaries, but otherwise the other points are reflected in the proposal. Now I'm conscious that this has come to the CEDC committee for feedback, and so far Allison and I have applied to the feedback, so it would be good to hear from other members of the committee.
I have a question. Maybe it's just clarification. Would for instance, the pub be able to apply without these limitations on license, or if it's not building specific, would the pub, for instance, or the beer and wine store, or even I guess the grocery store, be able to apply to be able to sell cannabis? I'm thinking like the pub, when the retail stores close, that they can sell like off sales. Is that covered under other regulation that's prohibited?
That's under the provincial regulations, and I believe at this time they don't allow, like, it has to be a standalone store. Like, they're very specific. It can't be, you can't sell beer and cannabis in the same, but it has to be a separate business with a separate storefront.
Okay, because I mean, when I'm looking at and I'm not very knowledgeable, just sort of looking over things, they are coming under the same branch or something. It's called liquor and cannabis or something. So I guess another thought, I don't know in regards to the policy, and maybe you're going to do this already, is that this is such a new industry. And I know that federally they're doing a review process at the moment. So I would think that any policy that BIM would take would maybe make reference or would include that this would be, everything would be subject to, federal and provincial regulations and whether they change in the future, that kind of thing, which I'm sure you're doing already.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely, it's such a new industry. And when we looked at some other communities have policies with much more like specific criteria. So they'll say, this many meters from a school or this many meters from a, another store. But how we're envisioning the policy at this point would just be their points essentially for council to consider without a set distance. With the goal being that sort of applicants are then aware that, okay, these are things that we're going to consider and are aware of. And, applicants should be thinking about whether they're acceptable ranges. But we wouldn't have like a line in the sand for any of them.
Doesn't the provincial rules have something about distances from a school? I remember that being talked about, but maybe I'm mixing it up with all the discussions that were held at UBCM conferences about it.
Yeah, I don't recall. I remember during our initial cannabis bylaw, our lawyer suggesting wording that other communities had used that was like, would put in a set distance from schools, parks, playgrounds, beaches. And I said that wasn't appropriate for Bowen because, most of Stunt Cove is within a set distance of Crippen Park and whatever else. But.
So I mean, that's something that Vancouver has been dealing with, and a lot of the cannabis stores are close to playgrounds and stuff like that. So the park safety groups or the parents have been asking for a 300 meter, and they've never been successful in Vancouver to get that.
Can I just ask for clarification? So if somebody was wanting to open a cannabis store, so the municipality is trying to make a policy in general about that specific type of retail, right?
So we already have a policy that prohibits retail cannabis sale without specifically having it stated as a permitted use, which it's not currently specifically permitted use other than this one temporary use permit. So this
That's our bylaw,
I guess I'm just trying to clarify the difference between regulations that an applicant would be adhering to. There will be a policy, a municipal policy on cannabis retail. Then there's a bylaw. Is that we would have a bylaw that would address it as well?
So this bylaw is to amend the land use bylaw to change the wording in the existing land use bylaw.
So the policy is different than the bylaw.
It expands.
So the policy is more about the approach. It's like it's a higher level. It guides the decisions of the council.
Okay. So council,
Bonn,
if somebody was applying, I'm just trying to get this straight. Somebody was applying, they would have to, council would use the policy as a guide to decide whether, and then there would be the bylaw.
So the bylaw
and is all of this triggered when someone goes for a license? I guess I'm trying to figure out the process. Like someone's applying for a license.
They would need to.
Is that when all of this comes into play, or?
So they would need to apply for a license. Any location that wants to do retail cannabis sales would apply for a license through the province. And when they do that, they would need to choose a location that our land use bylaw permits that use within, unless they're asking for a rezoning or something. So they would use the land use bylaw to tell them where the use is permitted, right? So limited within that as like a black and white sort of boundary. Then they apply for the license through the province. And at that point, the province comes to the municipality and says, we have this applicant. And then council would look at the policy to determine or to guide how they're going to respond to that license application. So the way that this policy would function is that council would refer to it when making their decisions, but also the applicant could refer to it when trying to determine the feasibility of their license being approved by council or not.
Okay, so it's really the provincial license that triggers all of this referencing needing, need to be there because of the provincial license. And
It's
then
like the liquor license process, Vaughn.
right, okay. So, okay, I'm just trying to, because we were talking about also maximum numbers. You also then goes into the mixes, depending on where they're trying to lease the space, right? Some landlords won't allow more than, or try to manage how many of one type of business is in a particular location. For instance, if somebody wanted to be in Artisan Square, could 10 of the same type of business be there if it was under the same landlord? The probably landlord also just naturally, I think, kind of manages that, right?
Yeah, so a strata or landlord would have decision-making
As well.
who they're going to rent to, right? And
right, yeah.
But so part of
I don't think that we
change
should.
that this represents is, first of all, more information provided to both council and to applicants that are seeking to do the license, but also if we were to remove the prohibition, as is suggested in this land use bylaw amendment, we're then subject to what the province does in terms of its regulations more than we are now. Now we have a bit more control. And if we remove this prohibition, then we're kind of following the provinces.
And then in terms of someone applying for an actual business license, a municipal business license, there's nothing there. That's just like apply. Once you've been approved, you would just apply, pay, and there's
so they would still need a business license like any other business operator, but the business license is just making sure that they're in compliance with all the other rules. It doesn't have its own additional rules in terms of for retail cannabis, other than things that all businesses have to do.
Jennifer, maybe put your policy back up rather than Glenn's
Sure.
letter.
So I guess the message from Glenn and from David is that there needs to be more thought put into this rather than just opening the gates. And I appreciate the recommendations that they have made. I don't know if I agree with all of them, but I appreciate the thought that went into it.
Well, it's interesting that they're actually suggesting that, particular areas not be allowed, and also the number of licenses, issued.
Yeah.
Well,
Why wouldn't they?
It's typical
with their
they could have more than one location.
Yeah.
And if we say only one, then that potentially could shut them down. So that's interesting that they would even want that in there.
But I
But
think
as Jennifer said, oh, sorry, Marcus, go ahead.
as a business, they're trying to frustrate competitive environment.
Yeah, so that's where I don't see those parts that do that. I don't support, because I don't think that's.
So Vaughn, this is the policy that Jennifer is suggesting council adopt. What you were looking at was the letter before. So they've left out the limiting the number of businesses and limiting the locations.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and I'm okay with what Jennifer's proposing, because provincial regulations and provincial legislation are going to dictate. And
yeah.
So there's a lot of process and procedure already there that any cannabis retailer would have to go through.
Okay, so we haven't heard anyone other than Councillor Nicholson who is questioning the emissions, who doesn't feel supporting of this. I personally agree with Marcus as well. I think it makes sense. Is there anyone else who wants to voice concern or raise another issue on it?
Well, is the entire policy listed here in number 3? So my understanding, Jennifer, was that you hadn't made the policy yet, but that you were going to include the things that are in number 3.
I would be including items 1, 2, and 3 here, so I can highlight it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, so there isn't a vision statement in this policy yet, but it would, what we're saying is the policy would include a vision statement.
So right now there is no policy. So we would, the next step would be to compose such a
But
policy.
those are the elements of the vision statement, the
Mhm.
balancing the economic development with neighborhood character. I mean, it's got to be in a commercial zone, right?
It would need to be in a zone that permits retail as a primary use.
And how many of those have we got outside of SNUD code?
Only a few, so they're in CD zones, but they're primarily in the cove itself.
Yeah, so the Common Point CD zone has a retail area. And a very specific retail area out by the King Edward Bay upper land. So there really isn't a lot. So
Okay.
character might be,
Do you want the committee to comment on the policy once it's written?
So I think that direction would come from council.
Okay.
You want me to put the recommendation on screen share to work on?
well, before you do that, has anybody got any concerns about the specific points that would be included in the policy?
I think in general, proximity to sensitive areas, if you wanted to loop in schools, these are like apple pie motherhood statements. So until the details written under 3 A, B, C, and D.
So Marcus is suggesting that proximity to sensitive areas needs to be more specific to identify sensitive areas, e.g. schools, blah, blah. So that we've clarified for future applicants or anybody just what we think are sensitive areas.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And neighborhood support, what did they have to do to get neighborhood support? What process did they go to for the current store?
So in the provincial act, they require that the local government canvass the neighborhood, and they give some options. So it's like sending out letters or doing a public hearing or a referendum. So the policy would then outline what notice we would provide. And then I think the policy would say, like indicates that they have sufficient neighborhood support. And it's kind of, to some extent, up to council then. It's not like anybody has a veto, but council would have to determine that, that there's broad neighborhood support. So the current one, we issued notice as part of the referral and as part of their temporary use permit to receive letters. And I mean, they got, I would say largely people wrote letters of support, and there were letters of concern as well, but enough for council to determine that there was, they'd heard the comments and they supported the proposal.
And I think the concerns were such that we sort of addressed them in the temporary use permit provisions.
Yeah.
I don't remember anybody outright saying, I don't want a cannabis store on Bowen.
There were several out
There were, yeah.
Oh, were there? Okay, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Proximity to sensitive areas. Once we start giving examples, do we then have to give distances and things like that? I mean, at what point does this become too detailed, or when more detail is needed? Like what does visibility and impact on neighborhood character mean? What does it look like?
This would all come down to the exact wording in the policy, but there's nothing that would require us to provide a distance just because we might mention particular uses like schools.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I think you have support for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so shall we, do we need to make just a statement or is it a recommendation?
Resolution, I think.
So it would be great if we could get official answers for each of the 5 questions at the bottom of the letter here.
I'm going to take over, Jen.
Okay.
That's okay. Get out of there.
So for the first one so it says at the stage of consideration, I'm looking for CDC's comment on the bylaw number 530. In particular, does CD support a rezoning application for this individual operator? I thought the whole point of the bylaw is that they wouldn't need a rezoning.
What?
I think the idea was,
They have to do a rezoning because their temporary use permit's going to disappear.
Unless this bylaw was adopted.
Yes.
so you're just saying like whatever council decides, you're not against this organization being able to run its.
Continue to run the cannabis shop.
Right. So as a backup policy, as a backup plan, they would apply for rezoning in case council decided not to adopt a new bylaw.
Well, they've applied for rezoning. That's why we're dealing with this.
Right.
Because
Is bylaw 530, that's not their rezoning, that's to allow cannabis sales and retail, is it not? Or am I
well,
mistaken?
they originally applied for rezoning for their specific site, and we made some comments about, well, what if they wanted to expand or move to another store in Village Square? So that's why the other bit about taking out the prohibition and not doing a single specific store rezoning, but allow cannabis sales in commercial areas that are zoned for retail sales.
Right. But this point says specifically it's for a rezoning application for this individual operator.
Well, they're the ones that have applied for the rezoning application.
I think what Rod's asking is if council approves bylaw 530, it should make a rezoning moot.
Right, so you can say
Yes.
if council decides not to adopt bylaw 530, the CDC would support rezoning for this company.
Sounds
I
good.
think that's
Yeah.
what we want to say.
Yeah, okay. So I don't know how to use, I'll smith it later, but if,
I'm sorry, can I just confirm with Jennifer that that's appropriate?
So that is what I was looking for there, just because then we know how the commission feels about that particular thing in case the 530 hits some kind of a roadblock. Then we wouldn't need to come back and just ask about that. We can do it while we're already talking about it.
Okay.
for the next two, so I couldn't remember if the sensitive areas was to be included in the policy or the bylaw.
The policy.
Policy.
Yeah, so the next point is, does CDC support the creation of a cannabis policy as outlined above? Which I think we do.
Yeah,
And does the CD support bylaw 530? Which is
You're
the
okay with that? Is this one
Yeah.
point? Okay.
you
Yeah.
gotta add as outlined above. Or as presented by the planner behind policy.
As, right, sorry, right here, as
Creation as presented at our such and such meeting. Yeah,
meeting, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Anything about number 3?
the wording of that section. So is that section
Number
in front
2?
of us right now?
Are you in number 2?
Sorry, Rod, can you?
So the next point at this stage of consideration is, does the CDC have any comments on the proposed wording of section 3.3.1?
Sorry, okay, are we finished number 3 though? Is there any other comment on bylaw 530?
No, I think we support the
Okay, perfect.
bylaw 530.
Jennifer, you haven't showed that section yet. This.
You want me to share screen? I have it available.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Can you knock me off?
Yep, looks like it. Okay, here we go. So what I'm showing now is the proposed bylaw, but the text that you're seeing is all the same except for here, letter D. That's all that changed. And before it required a specific stated use of retail cannabis rather than, in this case, it would be with other retail uses.
Okay, so
Let me see.
that whole section is being removed?
This is the proposed new text. So all of this part up here, A, B, and C, is just the same. It's just included here for context. And then this text is new and replaces a previous letter D that was prohibited this use.
Okay, so
And
you said
Allison, this is the same text that was presented at council that received first reading, that we are intending to revise the actual wording of the bylaw, because it garnered a lot of council discussion. So it won't be exactly that, but the goal of it is to allow cannabis use or cannabis retail as within a retail use.
okay, because to me, the way it's worded right now, and even what you said, you can have other retail uses in that same location.
Yes.
And I think that was one of the questions Vaughn was asking. So the way you've worded that, their cannabis store could sell chocolate bars, ordinary chocolate bars, any type of retail product as well as cannabis. And I don't think that's here.
I mean, I think that's what comes under like the provincial regulations are requiring it to be in a separate store.
Well, I don't think we should I can raise this because I knew there was something I was uncomfortable with at council and I can't find my notes. I still think it should just be a standalone sale of cannabis product in the store. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but that's my opinion.
Well, I think, Allison, one thing that would make it more clear is if we just said that it aligns with the provincial regulation, because otherwise we might be at odds with what the provincial regulation is. But just as an example that comes to mind, I know that pharmacies across Canada have applied. I don't know if any are selling cannabis right now, but if Kate's Pharmacy, for instance, or a pharmacy wanted to sell cannabis at some point and that was allowed by the province and the federal government, would we want to create a situation about that? Or
So maybe it's more just say within a retail zone, an area zone for retail use and licensed by.
It does say permitted principal retail use, permitted.
But the
right?
word associated with.
That's what gave us pause.
Oh, I see.
It's also worth noting that in the land use bylaw, there's principal uses and then there's
Accessory.
accessory uses. Thank you. So this is stipulating in particular a principal retail use because the accessory retail use is a much wider area of the island than a principal retail use area, which is like a retail zone.
okay.
But I wouldn't want it being sold in a kid's clothing store, and that's implying it could.
If
Yeah,
it
I
was
think you have to be
permitted
careful
by the
because
province, I guess.
as Rod said, there might be things change, right? And there might be some valid other types of retail that it does become available in. I don't know.
Allison,
Well, I guess
this is
the
still,
way-
I think
this
there's
is still
enough. There's enough, like if council gets to comment on the policy part, for, using the policy part, is it appropriate for our community? Basically, I don't think it's going to get, and there has to be neighborhood support and the other permitting, provincial process. Then I don't think you're going to end up with some weird, scary, dispensaries. So.
Just could I add to the discussion of point D? I wonder if there are two things being talked about here, and it might make sense to break them apart. So when I may be way off here, but I'm thinking about the first part is related to location. So if you said for point D or in a location with permitted principal retail use and ended it there. And then point E becomes licensed by the Liquor or Cannabis Regulation Branch. Does that solve anything?
Solves my problem.
Because I think just they're glommed together, and you are talking about two things. Does that work?
Sorry, Maureen, could you repeat that wording?
Yeah, I don't know if I can. It was off the top of my head, but basically, take that clause, break it apart into the two issues. The first one is location, and the second is the licensing. So it would be D would be something like in a location with a permitted principal retail use. So that relates to what it's appropriately how zoned for, how it's being used, and then finally just licensed by the branch itself.
Yeah, so location, so associated needs to be replaced with a location.
Yeah, located in a
Located,
permitted principal retail use, or located in an area or whose location is it a principal. Yeah.
So Jennifer, that D is located in a location with a permitted principal retail use. And that may need some tweaking, but the basic principle is separate the two things.
One question, what is the overriding jurisdiction for this? The liquor and cannabis regulation? Is that?
You can't run it if you don't have one of their licenses.
Do we, could we begin with sort of, just acknowledge that, and then all these other things are in addition to, and just make it very, so first.
Well, A, B, C are being removed, right?
No.
No, those are to remain.
Okay, all right.
Legislation.
That's the same wording.
Okay. All you're doing is amending the wording of D and E.
I think I've forgotten now who was commenting, but I think they were suggesting possibly taking this part and putting it at the top, something like this.
That's what I'm thinking. That's
And
the overriding
like this.
Regulation, and everything else is in addition to or an explanation of.
Actually, it's not, because Liquor and Cannabis Act BC only applies to the retail component. You have Health Canada legislation, which is for the medical stuff, and item B is referencing federal legislation. So there's several different cannabis uses being covered in this.
Should those sort of be the overriding principles, guidelines, whatever?
No, because the liquor and cannabis regulation branch doesn't have anything to do with the agricultural, with the medical purposes by Health Canada. So I think it has to stay down at the bottom.
Okay.
So really, we're just acknowledging the different levels of regulation federally and the different agencies here. The only thing that we're actually adding is that we are only allowing it in a location with permitted principal retail use.
Well, we're changing it because what it used to say is it wasn't allowed anywhere except as specifically permitted by council.
Right, exactly. I understand that it's being changed, but in terms of like, even if we didn't have these other points in our bylaw, they would still apply to every license, regardless of whether we had them in our bylaw or not. The teeth of it is that we, as a Bowen Island municipality, are looking at only allowing it in a permitted, where retail is the permitted as a principal use.
Yeah, but we're adding that so that each time somebody wants, we don't have to go through a specific rezoning in order to allow it, which is what we had to do before.
Yeah.
Quick question.
That was good feedback.
Quick question though, in terms of the location and it being in proximity, is that not sort of with the planning department to provide that direction?
Well, that's in our land use bylaw. It sets out where all the principal retail uses are.
Right, right.
So this is reading now that if D is an exception to the prohibition,
Yeah,
it has to be in a properly zoned location, right?
yeah,
And licensed by the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch.
yeah.
As sort of like those two things go together. So you can't have one or the other.
Well, the cannabis, I think the referral from the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch will ask if the area that they're wanting to operate the business in is licensed to carry on that business in that location. So if it's not licensed for retail, they wouldn't get their liquor and cannabis license.
I just don't know why it sounds to me like D and E are just one item. So you're either growing it for, medical purposes, which is a different thing than selling it through retail. If you're selling it through retail, you have to have a license by the regulation branch.
Do you need any licenses for A, B, or C from liquor and cannabis, Daniel?
Sorry, Allison, say that again.
I think what Vaughn's kind of say is the only time the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch license would be applicable is if your retail sales are, so that needs to be 1 point, not 2.
Yeah, I think the important thing that we've updated in this language, or we're going to recommend, I think, is it's not in association as it was originally written with a permitted principal retail use. It's in a location. Because to me, association was vague, as you pointed out, Allison, because it didn't really specify the same location. It could be one business operating in 2 locations, for instance. That would be an association. Whereas now we're saying it's in a location that's permitted.
So all I'm questioning is the grammar here, Maureen. You have or, and then you have and on number D, which either can be, to me, read as A, B, C, and D are different scenarios, but all of them have to be governed by E, or we're just talking about the specific scenario of having a retail use, in which case you don't need E. You just say and. We want it to be zoned properly and licensed by the province.
So that goes back to Allison's point, which was, does the municipality get involved at all in A, B, and C?
Right.
Or does the Liquor Cannabis Branch get involved at all in A, B, or C?
Do we know?
Okay, well.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's a separate set of regulations when it's as a farm use, for example, when it's being grown, as opposed to retail non-medical sales. So that's the logic behind putting D and E together. However, part of the process of figuring out exactly the wording here will be referral to legal. So, we can discuss with them which one of these orientations is best in terms of the legalese and trying to get to the point that we want to say.
So maybe we just need to record in the minutes somewhere is that so it flags it. The committee was
just checking the clarity of points D and E.
Yeah, discussed whether D and E should be 1 point or 2 separate points.
Aren't we sort of overstepping the mandate of?
Yeah.
Probably being too picky.
Yeah. Yeah. In the interest of time and flow of our meeting as well, I think unless we feel it's important, we should put it back together as 1 point the way it was, with just the recommendation that we change that word, which we did, which is association to location, and let others figure out the rest of the wordsmithing.
Okay, can we go back to the recommendation then?
Yes, I think so.
And I'm gonna
So-
take. Jen?
Rod just froze.
Am I, okay, no, I was waiting because I heard Steph's talking and then I didn't hear anything. Okay, so I'll move that we. as
Hold on,
Steph
we've
has
got
written-
one more then.
Oh, we
So,
do? Okay.
yeah. So bullet 3 was support bylaw number 30. Bullet 4, you guys, all this work, we're just gonna change to say, how did you like on that?
Amend point D to in a location with a principal use
Yep.
and get rid of B and hook up behind. Oh, Jennifer's got
In the
it.
chat, if that's useful stuff.
Yeah, what Jennifer had in the chat box is perfect.
For number 4?
Number 4, for, yeah.
Okay, I'll get that. And then finally, for bullet number 5 is, does the CDC suggest an alternate approach? I'm gonna
No.
say you support the approach proposed by staff. That's okay?
Yeah.
Bullet number 5, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm just gonna get into the chat and grab that. Perfect, okay, you ready to go, Rod?
Yep, so I'll move that we recommend, it's a recommendation we're being asked for, right? That,
Yeah,
that
Why
I'll
don't you
give it
just-
to you to read.
accept our comments, as below for bylaw.
Community Economic Development Committee provide the following comments regarding rezoning application RZ01 2020, Happy Hour Cannabis, 992 Dorman Road, and those 5 bullets that are here. That's the recommendation.
So Rod's moved that.
Yeah, I move that.
Second it.
Okay, in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, no one opposed then? And it's passed, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Daniel. Okay, our next item are our elections and schedule for the Economic Development Committee in 2021. So we have essentially a chair and a vice chair are what we're required to elect, and then the schedule. And I think probably in terms of working groups and other informal organizations is another topic for another time. As I'll put forth that I'm very much appreciated and enjoyed being chair of the Economic Development Committee, and I see that there's a lot of important work being done here, particularly with the Community Economic Development Plan and its aim to be completed this year, and also highlight our business engagement and our work that we've been part of as a committee with the Rural Islands Economic Partnership, as some of the highlights of what we've been doing and some of the interesting projects to come. Is there anyone who would like to put their name forward to carry on as chair of the Community Economic Development Committee?
Yes, I would.
Okay, Vaughn, thank you very much. And has anyone else been thinking about moving forward or having a greater role in the Community Economic Development Committee going forward, either as chair or as vice chair?
Highly sought after positions.
Highly sought after positions. Yeah. Well, I think in the normal course of things, Vaughn, having stepped up as vice chair last year, put her in a good position to be able to do some leadership and take on the role of chair. I admit, after a couple of years of working in chair, I'd be happy for Vaughn to take that role, and I'd be very supportive of her in that role,
Well, then move that she be
working along.
elected chair.
Pardon me, Allison?
Then make a motion that Vaughn be elected chair.
Okay, well then let's just get to it, Vaughn. I move that that we elect Vaughn Colbert as chair of the Community Economic Development Committee for 2021. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
Second. Jody seconds.
Okay, second. Any other discussion? Vaughn, do you want to make any other comments?
No, I'm happy to take on that role, and especially because I am excited this year about one of our major projects, which is the plan, and I've already been quite heavily involved in that in the working groups. So I think it makes sense, and yeah, I look forward to a really productive, exciting year.
We need to vote.
Terrific. Okay, well then, all in favor, Ron Colbert for chair for 2021. Aye.
Aye.
And is there anyone opposed? Okay, none opposed. Unanimous. Congratulations, Vaughn, and thank you very much.
Steph will help me, right?
Yeah, of course.
Steph will undoubtedly help you, yes, as we all will. And then the election of the vice chair. I've kind of floated the question out there. You've had 2 minutes to think about it. Is anyone thinking and interested in taking on the role of vice chair? I think that what it would signify, becoming the vice chair of the meeting of the Community Economic Development Committee, of course, is that you would be willing to chair a meeting in the absence of the chair. But more so just that you're keen and interested in taking a little bit more of an active role in the goings on of the committee. Not necessarily a big commitment, but something that might roll on to becoming chair and signifying that you'd like to be with the committee for a few years. And is there anyone who might be interested in that at this time?
Can I just also add that I think, Rod, I think what you were going to add there was that you are still interested in being heavily involved with the Rural Forum, the Islands Forum, can't think of the full name right now. So it would be good if there was, we still have you involved in that, and it'd be good if somebody else decided to take the vice position.
Yeah, and I think, not having had conversations with anyone else on the committee, to be frank about, the vice chair position, I'm just putting it out there at this point. But if it is something that you think about going forward and you think you would be interested in taking that on at any time, then let's have that conversation with Vaughn and myself and the counselors and Steph or the rest of the committee. But I would be willing to act as vice chair and support you as well, Vaughn. So if there's no one else putting their hand up, then I will ask someone else to nominate me. How's that sound? Or I guess I could nominate myself. Okay.
Second that nomination.
Okay. Well then, all in favor of Rod Marsh, myself, or
Aye.
vice chair for 2020?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
Aye.
you, Rod.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, then that's how we'll do it. Thank you very much. Moving on then, schedule. Are we happy with is it the third Monday? Is that what we're doing right now?
It's the
Yes, it is.
fourth Monday.
Is it the fourth Monday? Fourth Monday? Okay. Are we happy with that? And are we happy with 9:30 on Monday morning? I know it was difficult for me to be here right at 9:30 because my day starts before that. And so getting back to do this meeting.
Want it earlier?
Well, either earlier or later, I guess, probably, but I get ideally for me, maybe later, not by much, even 10 o'clock, probably. It would still be done before noon, hopefully.
10 to 12?
10 to 12. Any other thoughts about the day or times?
Mondays are not ideal for me, or Tuesdays, but I'm happy to keep with Mondays if everyone else, unless anybody else has any issues with Mondays.
I have an issue with the fourth Monday. Council meets on the fourth Monday. So our meetings start at 9:30 and end up going in some instances 10 p.m. So that takes it out of me, frankly. I'd rather we shift it away from the fourth Monday.
So the method in my madness of wanting the second or fourth Monday was so that the first and thirds, when we didn't have council meetings, meant that those of us that were on council had the ability to get away for a full week. If we schedule a third Monday, then that means you've only got the chance to get away.
Yeah, the frequency with which I'm getting away these days is nil.
Well, no, but hopefully life will be back to normal at some point. But it was just so you ended up with a clear week. That was all. And Monday was already a messed up day because of council starting in the afternoon. So that was, and I'm used to working.
We want to talk about like, how do we go from Friday to Monday?
Fridays are not a good day for me, or Thursdays.
Yeah.
How about Wednesdays?
I don't think Councillor Kale loved Wednesdays, but
He
maybe
doesn't come.
digital, it would be better. Yeah.
I think Kirsten had something.
Yeah.
And I was going to type in the chat, for me, any day in the week is fine. It's just that I think for those who are, sort of our regular work day, trying to carve out time in the morning where that tends to be a busier time of day is challenging, especially when you're invited into meetings. I always find that, meetings at work, it's really hard to reschedule when it involves other people. It's a little bit for me either, and I don't know how inconvenient this sounds, convenient or inconvenient to everybody else, but to do it over noon, like lunchtime, like if it could be like from 11:30 maybe to 1:30, somewhere in that area, or closer to the end of the day. That Friday, when we did have it on Friday, and I believe it was still in the morning, but the end of the day is a little bit easier for me to carve out some time as well. And I don't know what interest would be in having a meeting, say from 4 to 5:30 or 4 to 6. Maybe that's too late. Steph, I imagine it may be too late for you, but I just wanted to sort of highlight anytime we could pick a chunk of time that's not typical, maybe busy working hours, would be easier for me to attend meetings.
I would go from, let's say, 11:30 to 1:30 or noon to 2. Would that work for you, Kirsten? You mentioned those times.
Yeah, taking advantage of that lunch hour, I think
Okay.
would be helpful.
I would prefer that. I find it, not so much today, but I come out of EDC meetings with so many actions that it's nice to have a bit of time to work on them and not have it in the evening. So if 12 till 2 works for you, for the volunteers, I would be really in support of that.
I like
Okay.
the idea of taking in lunch as well.
So would that be on a Wednesday to avoid the council, or does it just could be on the third Monday, for instance? Or what about day then?
Does that affect your feelings, Maureen? It's still a big day, but it's not as long of a day?
Yeah, it's not as long of a day.
Now, will there be cows scheduled on those Mondays though, or meetings with the lawyer? Or
11:30 to 1:30 would probably be better than 12 to 2.
Yeah,
Give you
because we might
time for a break
Okay.
between.
from 2 to 4.
Well, if it's a Monday, yeah, like if it starts at 11:30, then my issue goes away with the Mondays. Yeah.
Okay, so
Why don't we do
Monday
that
from
Monday at 11:30?
Monday at 11:30. Fourth Monday, 11:30.
So Maureen, are you okay with the fourth Monday?
Yeah,
On
it's
that
a later start.
Okay.
that really got carved out. Worse. And anyone who wasn't here, oh well.
So when,
Okay,
All right, at 11:30 a.m.
So I'll move that the Community Economic Development Committee meet on the fourth Monday of the month at 11:30 a.m.
Great.
August
Second.
to December.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think Kirsten had something to add.
Oh, go ahead, Kirsten.
Can't hear you.
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I just wanted to clarify then, is that fourth Monday that we're looking at, then 1, 2, 3, would be the 22nd. That would be our next meeting, would be February 22nd.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, I think we all agree. Yeah, Allison, yeah?
Oh, Marcus is opposed?
Marcus
are
is
you
opposed?
opposed or in favor?
Hmm?
We
Are you
weren't sure.
opposed?
Check your hand up for in favor or opposed.
I'm opposing. I don't, like, I can't break out middle of the day. Like that, I like it being morning before I actually have to see clients or deal with stuff. Because then it's done. Like if I'm already working with clients or working on a project, to then end that meeting and sort of carve out time in the middle of the day just becomes too complicated.
So is the end of the day better for you, Marcus?
No, because that's when I'm on the ferry. So
Right.
So what works for you, Marcus?
kind of like that where we had it, and even if we went earlier in the morning, like 8:30, but I mean, if the majorities pick in a different time, I'll try to make it work, but it'll probably start to impact my ability to attend.
Well, that's not good. How about 8:30 on Wednesday mornings?
Marcus, I just wanted to, for instance, I'm on my cell phone and I'm actually just walked my dog. So there is ways to attend the meeting when you're not totally tied to your desktop as well. Just as thought.
No, I think what Mark is trying to say is when he's working on a project and working with clients, he can't sort of say, whoops, I've got to go and do something else for 2 hours and come back to you.
No, I was talking about the end of the day. He said he was on the ferry. I was just responding to that.
I think it would be hard unless he was in his car to participate.
Yeah.
When I'm in the car with 2 little kids. So.
Yeah.
Well, let's look
So
at
what about a morning
Let's look
that-
seriously in the morning then. Yeah.
So 8:30 on Wednesday mornings?
Or on the third Monday, I guess, then it avoids council. Is that right?
And
I
then-
think Ron didn't like early Monday morning.
No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I have a standing meeting on Monday mornings at 10 with my brokerage, and I never get to, so I not never get to go, but I like to go if I can. So so either 11:30 or 8:30 is fine. Yeah.
How is another day though for everyone else? Because honestly, I think starting the week, it would be easier to start it to do this meeting not on a Monday for me. Wednesday or Friday would be actually any other day would be fine.
Friday is a no-go for me
Okay.
because there's some regularly scheduled meetings and they're not always on a set Friday. So it's hard to.
How about Wednesday then?
Wednesday morning then.
Wednesday,
Sorry, I've got a standing meeting Wednesday mornings, so that doesn't.
Thursday
work.
mornings.
Thursday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday morning?
Okay.
Yeah, Tuesday could work after that long council meeting. Maybe we better make it the third Tuesday.
If I can just ask a question, I'm curious because don't other committees meet in the evening?
I think
I think we have met in the past on the evening occasionally. So
Mm,
Yeah.
we do.
Not
Since
that
I've worked
I
here.
can recall, not since 2015, I do not believe.
I don't think we've ever met in the
Meeting.
evening,
No,
even
I
when
don't
we
think so.
first started.
There's nothing.
Well,
prevents
let me ask Marcus, because you said that it affects your commute. I mean, typically what time could you be home or could you be available for a meeting in the evening?
You know, I think part of the reason we left evenings out was because, and maybe picked early mornings, was thinking we might have, I know Glenn was a member of the committee back in the beginning, and anybody who runs a storefront or runs a restaurant operation is precluded from being on the committee
Mhm.
if you do an afternoon or an evening. An a morning is usually allows them all to participate.
And later afternoon and evenings does not work for me. It's often when I'm working, so.
Yeah, your clients want to see something when they're not working.
Exactly. I never have appointments first thing in the morning, right? And I'm writing offers in the evening, so it's not good.
So is Tuesday mornings, third Tuesday morning?
Works.
That works for me.
Me,
Do you want to,
What does it work for? Let's not get to a vote and then.
Yeah.
find out.
So that would be 8:30 till,
10:30.
well,
10:30?
it's not great, but it's just I have realtor tour usually at 9:30.
Oh,
Um,
that's here on Bowen?
hmm,
That realtor chair here on Bowen or on the mainland?
Bowen.
Does it happen every week?
Like, I'd rather miss my brokerage meetings than that. It's not like it's every week, but it should be. If we had people actually listing. Okay, so the Mondays don't work because of other
Well, it's a long day for council and it's
Right.
tricky for me, but just
It's tricky
because,
for you,
it's the
okay.
Start of the week.
Okay,
but-
then fine. Just if everyone else is good for Tuesday at 8:30, let's do that. I'll
So
figure it out. I'll
Third
figure it out.
third Tuesday,
8:30.
I mean, maybe this is going too far, but what about at 8 o'clock then to get you out to your,
No,
that
it's
would give
okay.
us incentive.
It's
to finish
okay.
the
I'll
meeting.
figure it out. It's not every time anyways. It may not.
Our
be an
meetings
issue.
usually go to 2 to 2.5 hours. So anything that starts at 8:30 is going to go till 11.
I don't know, under this new chair, maybe we'll wrap it
Yeah.
up in an hour and a half.
Exactly. Looking forward to it. Okay. So is there anyone who would like another day other than Tuesdays, that strongly thinks that? I guess Wednesday was out, wasn't it? Didn't work.
Yeah.
For someone, I can't remember.
That was Kirsten.
Kirsten, yeah. And Friday
Thursdays and Fridays, there's too much else going on for a variety of us.
Okay. Well, that
Tuesday.
and Tuesday at 8:30, Marcus, does that help you?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, then are we ready for a vote on Tuesday at 8:30, third Tuesday of the month? No one else needs a
Okay,
comment? Okay, you move it, Bonn?
I'll move it. Yeah.
Okay, I'll second. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 And anyone opposed to third Tuesday at 8:30 to 10:30? Okay, I think we cleared it up. Great, thank you, everyone. Okay, so we are, as Vaughn pointed out, not directly, but indirectly, we are well behind schedule here. Previous
there are
action
no
items.
action items really. I just posted them there to keep the placeholder.
Okay,
Keep thinking about water bottles.
right, okay. Let's not start a discussion about water bottles right now. Updates from the province. I believe Wendy isn't able to be with us. Did she send anything?
Yeah, she's not able to be here.
Did she didn't send anything in particular, did she? I don't
Oh,
think.
she just sent an email saying she couldn't be here.
Yeah, no, okay, so we don't have any announcements from her, but we'll be looking forward certainly to hearing from the province. I imagine that we're going to be hearing from them more in the next month, 2 months. Council, I'm sure there hasn't been too much, I guess, or maybe there has. Do we have an update from council? Do one of the councillors want to?
I think in the time, maybe just refer folks to the council highlights.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can discuss more fully next meeting.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much then. Steph, anything regarding staff?
I hit the business license inspector up for some updates if people have time for that on business license.
Yeah, sure. What you want, I know you'll have a succinct summary, so why don't you hit us?
523 applications, 464 are active.
How many?
Hmm,
How many are active of 523?
464.
Does active mean approved?
Yeah.
So
I
some are
think
not
active
approved?
means some people aren't really in business right now,
Oh,
but they still have their license. Why don't we finish the list and then we can flesh it out?
Yeah.
A bit more? It's okay. 220 are unpaid, but the payment deadline is not until February 28th and there's no penalty. So
Is there a notice if your license is up for renewal? Do you get a notice saying that after February, you will get a notice?
Yeah, we already have. I got mine in November, I think,
Okay.
with instructions about, how to pay and what the deadlines were. So it was very smooth in terms of the notification.
I'll have to check with my chief financial officer.
in the upstairs office,
Yes.
3 businesses requested payment deferral. So I think this committee had been quite concerned about offering that option in the pandemic, and
Sorry, how many?
a lot of uptake on it. So that's good news.
I didn't hear the number, Steph.
3,
3, okay, thanks.
12 had requested deferment last year. Tess pointed out that council had directed staff to start to increase enforcement, move from the education phase to the enforcement phase, but COVID happened quite quickly after that direction. So they haven't really been doing that, and we'll look for more direction soon. 3 to 6 months RGA applications. What is RGA? It's short-term rentals. What does RGA stand for?
Residential guest accommodation.
Thank you. New applications are winding down. She's feeling like mostly it's renewal. And yeah.
Jeff, how many of the residential guest accommodation?
She's still working on them. I've got 3 to 6 months residential guest accommodation, so can improve upon that. I'll make a note to find out what that means. Does that make any sense for you?
Yeah, it probably means that they're sort of phasing it in with an expectation that within 6 months, people would get on board with licensing.
Maybe I'll just make a note to follow up on RGAs. And I'll send an email. Yeah. That's all. Oh,
Okay.
the other thing is that Rod asked me just to go through how to do research on the website. Do you still want to do that, Rod?
Let's not go through it right now, but I just wanted to presence to the committee, and maybe we can make an action item going forward to reach out to, I've understood, and I don't know this to any degree of accuracy, but there's a new owner for the gold pages on Bowen. And I think it'd be of interest to the committee to understand what plans might be in works for that, as it does serve as a resource for business community. And that also ties into the business search function for licensed businesses on the municipal website, I believe. So those 2 things I think might be something for us to look into together going forward.
Do you want me to see if that person wants to come and talk to us next month?
I think it'd be terrific to invite them, let them know if they don't, that the Community Economic Development Committee, who we are and what we're doing, and I'm assuming they have a business license, or the Gold Pages has a business license, that business.
It's Claudia Schaefer who just took it over, and
Okay,
she may have just, as far as I get the impression, it might have just been in the last few days that she took it over. So,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good for us to, I think, as just members of the community, be aware of. And hopefully that we'll have some contact with that going forward.
So
I think,
I'm
yeah, go ahead.
back. I disappeared for some reason.
Welcome back.
Thanks, Allison. We just got the staff update on business licenses. And I think, do you have anything else, Steph, that you want to update us on for staff?
Oh, just we're excited about the new, the consultants for the ECDev plan, but that will come up in subcommittee reports.
Great. Okay, thanks, Steph. Jody, do you want to, or does anyone have anything to comment on tourism Bowen Island?
One thing I want to mention that is related to the committee is that in early January, I sent an email to Wendy Coe inquiring about funding opportunities to support food resiliency, that kind of thing, because I think that's important on Bowen Island. Colbert's pointed that out. So I ended up having a meeting with her and the two agrologists. And I've then passed that information on to Bowen Island Food Resiliency and the Bowen Agricultural Alliance. So I'm hoping that they'll have a stronger relationship, because the agrologists that had looked after our area really didn't know anything about Bowen and had only dealt with complaints like about roosters or whatever. So yeah, so I've done that.
Sorry, Jody, you sent a letter to whom? I didn't catch that.
Sorry, I emailed Wendy Coe. I was
Okay.
wondering, Wendy Coe, and then she put together just a telephone conversation with the agrologist. And then what I'm saying, because I was wondering what supports there were specifically about food. So then I've just then connected the two local food groups to hopefully have a better connection and to monitor and perhaps find supports for that. Tourism Bowen Island, what's happening? We are, the visitor center is closed. I'm hoping to, I've asked for, in my report to BIM and council, to look at the fee-for-service contract that we've had, and to get it better aligned with the services that we're actually offering, and the shift to digital, and that visitors come to Bowen not just between May and or Victoria Long Weekend and Labor Day. So I'm hoping to have a dialogue about that and come up with a fee-for-service agreement that is more aligned with what we do and how we support community economic development on Bowen. In my report, I put an estimate that tourism, and this is a really rough estimate, it's probably underestimate, in 2018 facilitated or brought community economic development between 9 million and 14 million. So I'm looking forward to working with the consultants and seeing how that fits in with the broader plan that will be developed. Does anybody have any questions?
Would that report be part of council minutes then in the last meeting, or when was that?
Yeah, so the report would be part of, I believe it was the December 14th council meeting. And I can certainly share that with the
Do you think there would be
committee.
value in having those on this committee agenda?
I'm sorry, what?
Do people think there would be value in having those reports included in our agenda for information if we're going to be working as a
Well, could
team?
we include a link in our minutes so when we review them, we can make sure we flag to know,
So I can do that now, but maybe
able to do
moving
that.
forward, would it be a good idea to have it, that the committee could read the report? And
What do
support?
you think, Jody? I mean, I think it would be great to have a link to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm happy to forward that. And it just happened, like it's the sort of annual report that we do. Yeah, so I can forward that for sure.
Terrific. Okay, anything else you want to highlight from tourism at this point?
Just that we are upholding the provincial guidelines to avoid non-essential travel. And I think generally speaking, people are doing that. It's getting a little bit ambiguous about, provincial standards, what's being said and stuff, but we're upholding that and asking people to postpone visiting. And it will be obviously very interesting what goes forward. The next review of the non-essential travel and the public health orders comes midnight on February 5th. So we'll see what goes forward with that. Yeah, I just noticed in the Cove, it's obviously very quiet right now. So yeah.
But it's January and it's traditionally quiet, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But, and I have heard anecdotally from some of the businesses that I talked to that they did say that locals have been supporting them. So I did talk to, for instance, Catching Stars Gallery, and this was just casual conversation yesterday. And they said that their most recent December was actually better than their previous December. So it's good to know that the shop local messages, it seems to me, have been working. But that's just anecdotally. Oh, there we go. Tongue twister.
Okay, I think we've lost Jody for now.
Yeah, frozen for the moment. Okay, well, thanks very much, Jody.
I'm here.
And okay, good. All right, hear you now. Yeah.
I'm here. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you just
that's
froze.
all. Unless anybody has more questions. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. One thought that came out was we haven't, and I don't know that it's our mandate necessarily, but heard specifically from businesses that are feeling really beleaguered by the epidemic and the potential business slowdowns. But you talk to probably more people than any of us in the local business community on a regular basis, Jody. So it'd be interesting to know if people have reached out or made comments about concerns about the ongoing viability of their business or not, regarding potential upcoming closures or considerations that way.
I did do a survey, and I reported that. I think the results are in the report, if I remember correctly, as well. So once again, to get response from people is always hard, but it was representative. So everybody that responded reported, for instance, a decrease in revenues in comparison to the previous year. They all reported accessing at least one grant or funding opportunity. And, nobody's, and some people did say that they are concerned about what's going to happen. I have also, this keeps changing almost monthly. In December, BC has upped their small and medium-sized business grants. And, so I send out a newsletter to our members, strongly encouraging people to access that, because a huge part of that, a significant part of that funding can be deferred as like a grant. So my understanding is people are trying to tap into those things for support, and I hope that they do as much as possible, because it is going to, as far as I can see and what I'm following, first quarter and second quarter are going to be bleak, and we don't know what's going to happen with the variants coming in and how the economy will reopen until probably the third, fourth quarter. So
Okay, well, I think that keeping that, that avenue open, I'd certainly like to hear from businesses. I think Ron would, and you are talking to them on an active basis. So it'd be good to, for us as a committee to be aware of, and maybe we need to have a report on businesses that have closed or that are seeking further aid or considering, closing or restructuring because of the pandemic. That's a little above tourism, and I'll just leave that at that, I think, at this point. So from the Hearth, Jamie, did you or Ed want to give us a bit of an update?
Sure, absolutely. I apologize for my being so distracted. There was a deer that just recently died right below my window here in the office. So it screamed for about 45 minutes before it naturally died. So it was a little upsetting.
I bet it is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the police were here and yeah, anyway, it was very upsetting. I had to move away from my window because I couldn't hear anything because it was screaming. Anyway, it's died and they've taken it away now. So now I can focus on this meeting. Happy Monday morning. Whoa, that's a crazy way to start the week. So we had a very successful December here in the gallery. We had the art market, the December art market. It was an opportunity to give artists that maybe would have participated in a Christmas craft shows, things like that, to have space here in the gallery to sell their art. And I agree with Jody. I think a lot of people stayed on island to buy their Christmas items this year. We were really busy and our numbers were up. Well, very comparable to last year. So considering the situation, I think that that's a great success. We probably supported about 15 artists. So, and gave them all a nice little Christmas paycheck from the sales. So it was really a great opportunity. We're just accepting our art today for the mini artworks show. That is our fundraiser, our annual fundraiser, and an opportunity for people to come in and bid on these mini pieces that are contributed by local artists. So that will open on Thursday. We're really excited about it. We've just spent the last 3 weeks painting and fixing up the gallery, so it's nice and fresh, and we're ready to open for the season to support local arts again. I think that's about it that's going on. I do want to share just one thing, and I think it's a great opportunity for our local, just for the community. We are in agreement, or we've got a contract with the BIX school. So Sarah and I have been working together to have a 3-week art show for kindergarten to grade 7 kids. So we'll be filling up every inch of the gallery space with children's art for 3 weeks in April, which it's a great way to recognize our kids in a gallery space, but it's also a great way to get people who normally don't go into a gallery to come in and see their kids' artwork. We'll also be doing a fundraiser at the same time, so people can, parents can bid on their children's artwork. So it's a good thing, and I think it'll be an annual event, and it's something that we should do as a community service to our island, to make sure that every artist of every age gets a chance to show in our gallery. So that's kind of exciting. And I think that's about it. We're just being busy around here.
Did Maureen have something to say?
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. I love the children's art show. I actually wanted to comment on Jody's presentation earlier on. There's just a wee bit of context. I sit on the Regional Parks Committee, the Metro Regional Parks Committee, and we just had our monthly meeting last week. And just for context, the park attendance is up 39% over previous years. And they do have the statistics at the individual park level. I don't have access to those yet, but and I will get them and pass them on because it makes an impact on who's going to be arriving on tourism Bowen's door. So that reflects 16.5 million park visitors. And if you calculate that out on a regional basis, it translates as 6 park visits per individual in the regional district in all of Metro Vancouver. So the parks are seeing phenomenally increased attendance, and you know, that's got its pros and cons, but the impact is being felt throughout the park system. They're also going to be the work plan for the coming year was established, and they'll be working on the management plan for Dorman Point in the latter part of the year. They'll wrap it up in the fourth quarter, and they are doing a revision of the regional park plan, the guiding document for all of the parks. They did it in 2016, but there's been so much change in the interim that they want to start revisiting the park plan for the region, which would include things like park uses. So just a heads up on that.
Terrific. Thanks, Maureen. That's interesting. And although not part of our discussion right now, I think it'll be interesting to hear both from parks and from possibly from the Hearth too. I noticed we had the link. I think I had requested Steph put that in there, not Jamie, but about the Commons landscaping grant info and so on. And I guess that's in process. And did I understand, Maureen, that parks had been looking at accessing emergency funds or recovery funds for parks on Bowen as well? Is that something that's being discussed right now?
We do that on an ongoing basis. The major Bowen related grant application that they have in at the moment is under a heritage stream for one of the COVID infrastructure grants, and it's $1 million for building costs in the Davies Orchard. So that's going to be the outcome of that grant application will be known probably in, I think they'd intended to bring the competition to a close in January. So probably February people would be notified.
Rod, we've got a whole section on grants coming up.
Right. Okay. I'll just leave that at that. Then Jamie, I guess you had everything that you wanted to say there for now. And I'll just comment with the Rural Islands Economic Partnership Society. There's background work going on there continually. They've hired a communications person. They've accessed more funding, and they're about to this week to do a preview on a website update. And I have the information from Francine on that if anyone is interested, but I'll plan on attending a virtual meeting. It's a preview as to what they've been working on. That I've noticed if you follow Rural Islands Economic Partnership on Instagram or on Facebook, they've been making regular posts and posting Bowen businesses extensively. I think just about every one of the Bowen businesses that's listed at this point on the islandcomeback.ca website has been featured in social media posts. The ones that I've seen, they look really great. I think that what they've done is they've either skimmed through images that were submitted online in the business profiles and just used them. Because I know, for instance, Tara with Titania, who is from my house, did not specifically submit a post, but was included, and it looked great. So they're doing their own creative, taking images and getting the word out there. And it's certainly featuring Bowen businesses extensively. I think that's all I need to say about that for the time being. Any questions about what's going on with the Rural Islands right now, or ideas and how we might communicate with them.
Has there been any increase in the number of Bowen businesses that are participating?
You know, I don't have that information in front of me. I don't know if you do, Steph. Last time I looked at the page, I didn't really notice new businesses. I think there's between 15 and 20 there right now. There's certainly room for a lot more.
Yeah, I don't notice an increase, but I would encourage people to try to get more businesses to sign up if you have the opportunity.
And an easy way to do that would be, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, just to look up Rural Island, or Island Comeback rather, on your social media feed, and then share and reshare the posts that they're making, or like them, comment on them, all those good social media things. Okay, Bonn, do you want to give us the update on the Community Economic Development Plan?
So I just put Vaughn's name there, but I guess
Yeah.
or Maureen.
Council or Maureen, yeah.
Yeah, or Marcus, sorry, or Marcus.
Marcus, yeah.
Okay, so essentially we have had our first kickoff meeting with actually we've had more than the kickoff meeting. We had the kickoff meeting and we had our first monthly scheduled meeting with the consultants that we hired. H&K, Hilton and Knoll?
Hill and Knowlton.
Hill and Knowlton.
Close. Not well-known international company.
Yeah, very well-known international company. But they put a really good team together. And and they've got some Bowen reference in there. There's one member specifically who has family living on Bowen, so has some context for the island, which was really important to us. We didn't get anybody applying that was a Bowen resident. Unfortunately, that was our first choice. But we're pretty confident with this group. So we will be holding, as the work goes along, we will be holding regular meetings with them once a month, and always before our CEDC meetings, so that we can report back on what the latest is at our meetings. And we'll see how it goes. If it makes sense, we might have them at one of our meetings. And so currently we have a working group, which is Marcus, Edward, Maureen, myself, and no, Rod is not going to be on that one, and Steph. That's everybody, right?
Yeah. The CEO is also sitting in on these meetings.
Right, and the CEO. So not too much to say right now. I don't know, Maureen, if you want to add something. I mean, I think they're just really getting started. Plans for engagement strategy and that kind of thing are in the works, but I think probably by next month we'll have more sort of meat to talk about. But I'm pretty confident, and I think our working group is that these people are gonna they represent several levels of expertise in different areas. So as a team, I think they're going to work very well. Do you want to add something, Maureen? Or?
Not really, but Marcus and Edward met the team for the first time last week, and I think came away feeling comfortable. Ed, can't hear you.
I'm quite comfortable, and I've asked Steph to put me in touch with David Jordan. I think I could probably give him a 30-minute overview of some of the research we've done to put some of what they're talking about within context of the community. And he's agreed to meet with me. I'm going to be very aware of the fact of this is a fixed price contract, and we don't want to spend a lot of time of their time on something that's not productive. But I think it would be helpful if they could see the larger context that they're presenting in.
Yeah.
Marcus, did you have anything to share about that?
No, I think they seem like a good company and wait for them to sort of get into the process.
Okay.
Is there, sorry, can I ask a question? Do we have, is there an outline for what we're asking them to do and what the goals are or outcomes?
Is that the RFP?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that essentially would be the RFP.
Okay, great. Okay, that's somewhere.
It would have, I think, been distributed to this group, but maybe, Steph, maybe you could send it out again.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They are working pretty closely to what we've stated there.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a conversation with David Van Setter last Friday, and he was asking probing questions, and I thought it was reflective of someone who's looking at getting a job done well. So, as Marcus said, looking forward to seeing them getting their teeth into it and seeing what they're coming back with for us.
We are going to be having a brainstorming session with them around who they should be contacting in the community. And so, Jody, definitely your name will be on that list.
Jamie also.
Sorry?
Jamie also.
And Jamie, yeah. So we will be identifying some key people for them so that they don't miss anybody that they should be talking to. Yeah.
Terrific. Okay, is there more we need to comment on the plan development at this point? Everyone? No? Okay. Thank you. Business arising from the minutes. I don't think there's anything to say about infrastructure projects list. It's sort of on the back burner.
I thought that, but that would be where you'd want to talk about the different grants that were in play. And
I guess, yeah, that's true.
that was
But I don't know that we, unless someone has something specific, if we're just waiting on grants that have been applied for at this point, then I think we could discuss that at the next meeting probably.
In terms of community infrastructure, there was a proposal that came to council just recently for a children's playground in
Oh, right.
And that's not CED related, but there is a granting program, another granting program coming up fairly soon for which that might be a good fit. So sort of the flow of continuing funds for projects that are broadly defined COVID related, that flow is continuing.
Interesting. Yeah. And is there a specific program that they'd be applying to that is for school age children, or is it a general infrastructure program, do you think?
The program is pending, so the details are yet to be shared. Great.
Out of curiosity, what area would the proposal for this playground be in?
It would probably it's health related.
Oh, I see.
Providing outdoor recreational.
Good.
On Bowen Island. What area of Bowen Island was the proposal regarding?
Kate's Hill.
Okay. Great.
The park area below Turnanog?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, any other granting type or infrastructure programs that people are aware of that might like to share? Okay, I think we could leave that. Budget request and work plan. So we made our budget request, and I think that we haven't heard. And
we don't know. There's no. We don't know what's happening with that request.
Steph, do you know if Raj put the whole amount in his draft budget?
I'm hoping, I'm checking with Daniel, whose department it will fall under. And we haven't heard back, but the request was made.
Yeah, okay, I remember having some comments on back at the beginning of the process, but I can't remember. What are we doing about the business summit?
Do you want me to just
This-
share the screen of the work plan?
Sure, yeah.
All I've got is the budget request, yeah.
Well, this is sort of the list of activity.
Yeah,
So business summit, February.
yeah, and this is January, that's why I was asking.
Yeah, so no. I mean, that would be something that would use that opportunity to get engagement for the ECDev plan, I would think.
Well, my recollection is that we left some of these things in thinking that we would see how the engagement process goes for the plan, and if, there was overlap there where, they were going to be doing some things, we could possibly even help it along with our budget, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just, I don't think the intention was to plan a whole bunch of engagement events and then, outside of what they're doing, sort of, take it in consideration and see what makes sense to,
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Vaughn, in light of that, Vaughn, when we had put the February, I think, down for annual business summit, the RFP had the pavement, the tires hitting the road for the plan in December and January, so which of course was delayed as part of the hiring process and moving forward. So I think it would make sense to assume that would be delayed anyway by at least 2 months.
So
yeah, sorry. That reminds me something we should mention about the RFP or about the plan process is that because it got going a little later, we've extended the goal to complete by September.
Right.
Originally, we were going to be done in, I think we asked for June or July in the RFP, but now we are hoping for September.
And the thought was the engagement process in particular could happen more in the better weather a little bit later as opposed to February and March when it was originally in the timeline for the plan, I think, for the RFP. Okay.
Like the buy local campaign, have you guys, I'm feeling pretty good about it. Has anybody seen it or have comments?
I've seen it, it's great.
Yeah.
So most recent one was nominate a small business, and that was, thank you, Rod, for flagging that, and then we recycle that into the buy local campaign. In this meeting, there have been 2 comments that local support has increased this year or has been significant. So I'm thinking about rolling that in, maybe a thank you based on not hard anecdotal evidence only, but sort of a thank you to people for supporting local, for having done that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd add one thought to the buy local campaign, and that is that I think it's an important baseline message. And we've been at it for years now through the BC group and our commitment there financially through the committee. And I think that considering that sort of messaging, as a working group, we might want to consider how are we further bringing that into the fabric of our culture on Bowen. We've got messaging out there, which is good, and it's reinforcing buy local, constantly important. But how is it really part of our Bowen culture? This is sort of maybe a question for more business engagement. How do we have people excited and really invested in supporting local businesses.
Okay,
And I'll just leave that as a thought.
okay.
Okay, any other comments on our draft budget, rather not our draft, but our budget request for pending budget request for 2021?
I'm wondering if the buy local and the annual business summit might be combined in some way to have the buy local angle, and what people have done and what people can do, and whether businesses feel supported, or if that could potentially be a topic, and to hear hear from the businesses. We've often brought in outside experts as part of the business summit. Maybe this is time to have 3 local folks sit on a panel, and we hear a lot from them about what their experience has been during COVID. The health center in particular during the early days of COVID did a great job of convening panels focused on a specific topic, lasted for about an hour, lots of information shared, lots of good discussion. That could be a model going forward for when we're ready for a summit, and it's a topic that could feed in quite nicely into the development of the community economic development plan. Just an idea.
A good idea. And I raised it partly because I think we're wanting information from the local businesses on how they're coping and how they're going, and having a Zoom virtual summit might not be a bad idea. And the launch of the plan.
Maybe we could talk about that at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would have a chance to bring it up with H&K before the next meeting.
Yeah.
As well.
I guess I just wanted to also make sure we still wanted to do it, because if people are looking for things to cut in the budget, I don't want them cutting that part of our budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. Thank you for bringing that out, Alison.
Yeah. Okay. Are we at the end of the agenda?
I think we're at the end of the agenda. And there's information items, which is the CEDC webpage. I guess that's a link to the municipal CEDC page, which Steph has been terrific at updating and keeping information on all their different meetings and programs there. So if there's nothing else, then I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Great to see
Have a great
everybody.
day.
About that disruption, I thought I had plugged my laptop in, but I hadn't, and it just all of a sudden died on me and didn't give any warning. But yeah. So see you all later.
Bye-bye.
Technology is always a
Bye-bye.
challenge. Bye-bye.